the X-Files Fan Retrospective documentary. And this documentary explores the impact of the X-Files through the fan community and by utilizing more than or close to 100 interviews with the cast and creatives. And today I have the filmmakers with me. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You share a lot of inspiring stories from the creation of X-Files as well as from the fan perspective. But I really want to start by getting a sense of your own fandoms and the origin of your X-Files fandoms.
I've been a fan since I was 9 years old. I remember watching the pilot with my family when it aired. And it was just the first show that I really loved, the first show that I always wanted to be home on Friday night to watch at 9 p.m. I just loved it. I loved the way it looked. I loved the characters. And it was pre-internet, so kind of alone in my little X-Files bubble, unless my family watched it with me. It's a really great show that I enjoyed watching growing up.
Yeah, that is so true. Like the early days before we had the internet to connect with other fans out there. How about you, Carly?
My father used to watch it, and I lost my dad now 20 years ago. And it was something that we would sit on the couch and either watch that or Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And it was one of those things that it grabbed me, and it was just such a really well-written show. And I was a young kid. The X-Files was one of those things that just grabbed my attention, and I stuck with it.
So what would be an episode early on that, would you say, grabbed you?
Probably Ice from the early season, or Jose Chung's from season 3, just from a comedy standpoint. Yeah. But Ice was probably one of the best written episodes, and it was really, I think, really a telling episode in the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
I always really loved the host.
Mm-hmm. You just want to say Jersey.
I do. I love the Jersey connection. Watching that as a kid terrified me, and I just loved that it was so dimly lit. You couldn't really make out what the creature was, and you really didn't get that many answers. And then at the end, to find out he's still out there was really interesting and fun. And I thought, oh, this is so weird. I'm so scared, but I can't stop watching.
Since high school, you said you've been friends?
Carly and I were acquaintances in high school, and I always make that distinction because really the show, The X-Files, is what brought us back. And now she's one of my closest friends. She had friended me on Facebook. And in 2018, she wrote, "Where are my NYC X-Files fans at?" So I felt compelled to say, me, always and forever. And then she had sent me a message. I was like, hey, do you want to go to this event with me in the city? I said, sure. And that's how we met up. And that's where we started speaking to other fans. And that's where this idea really came from.
It's one thing to gather at an event and reunite with an old friend. But then it's quite another thing to say, we should make a documentary and dedicate a lot of our life, our time, our energy to this. So what was that conversation as far as like, yeah, let's do something about this?
You know what it was? I think a lot of it was we met people like us that were passionate about the show for various reasons. A lot of those stories grab people. And we thought, wow, there's something here. And we both had experience, in marketing and production. And we thought we could put this together. And it started small, and it just kept growing and growing and growing.
You were already kind of primed to do this kind of work because of your professional background. It's like this was the role you were born to play.
Yes. Let's make a love letter to the show. Let's talk to fans whose lives have been positively impacted by the X-Files one way or another.
What have been some of the challenges with being a small team and attacking this documentary for over the span of multiple years, a global pandemic?
So our very last interview before COVID was here in New York with Reese Darby, and it was great. And we brought all of our equipment and we set it up and the lighting was perfect. And then when the world shut down, we had a choice to make. Do we keep going? We were suddenly at the mercy of everyone's internet connection, microphone. They're sitting in their garage, they're chatting with us, their dogs are barking, but we rolled with it. And we were just so grateful to keep it going and share this content online with fellow fans. Here's the rough cut. It's on our YouTube channel. Go check it out. And it just became bigger and bigger with each passing month.
It was a blessing in disguise because I don't think we would have had the opportunity. We didn't have a huge budget. So for us, we wouldn't have been able to fly to Vancouver or Detroit or Los Angeles. So these people were home and they wanted to talk. We had to trade the production value, like Lauren said. Like, I love video cameras and lighting and microphones and doing it the proper way like we did with Reese. But we had to trade that.
Do you think that that contributed to the substance of the interviews? Because people were thinking about my career, my life, what have I done? What does it matter? What's my legacy? Did that come out in the interviews?
I think so. I think people were very personal, and took a lot of time. People were not in a rush to talk to us, and they wanted to tell us their stories, and they wanted to tell us their experiences. And I can't tell you one person who wasn't proud of their work, and we're grateful for the work and experiences they had on the show. And Lauren and I are sitting there like, wow, we're hearing the nitty gritty of what went on, and a good thing. Everything was positive. There was no negative. And I think you're right. And I think, like, you've seen shows like X-Files shot up in viewership during COVID, and people were so excited to talk about it. That Lori Holden watched the show again so that she could really relive what she had done on it, and she wanted to make sure everything she had knew and talked about was fresh. We were so appreciative of that. So it was a wonderful experience.
And it seems like Chris Carter, in a way, was still behaving somewhat as a leader of this crew as you were filming things. He was encouraging people to talk to you. Is that accurate?
Yeah, this actor reached out to us directly and said, let's do it. Let's talk. And he was gracious, and it was awesome.
That was Mitch, right?
It was Mitch, yeah.
Right. So, that's a part of, you can see that in the clips online.
Right, you can see it. He says, Chris told me to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
The stars are aligning. We've got all these great interviews. We've got this online presence now. We're interacting with fans. As I said, we have to go for Chris Carter, but it's gotten to the point where we've spoken to him several times, and he's just so gracious with his time, and he's just a great guy. And thank goodness, because we'd been crushed and we would have scrapped the whole thing.
Yeah. But I think we felt that way with anybody who we interviewed. You get that crushing feeling. I know anybody who's met their favorite people. We did not feel that way with anybody. We were so grateful for everybody. Everybody was so gracious and so incredible and so sweet. We were very lucky.
What were some tidbits from these interviews that, even as fans, like, where you're kind of blown away?
I think for me, it goes back to how wonderful everybody was. I know that sounds hokey and whatnot, but productions are long, stressful, exhausting events. I don't care if you work on the best show on television. You're tired at the end of the day. And everybody was just like we were talking about a minute ago. I think the passion came out from the top, from Chris, Kim Manners, Rob Bowman, these guys, Bob Goodwin. Like, their passion was brought all the way down to the bottom, to people who are PAs. I mean, we've become friends with people who worked on the show, and they're just saying, like, how amazing it was. You want to do your job. You want to go there and be passionate about your job. And how many people can say that? It was so cool to watch them light up about talking about it.
Was there any interview that you're professionals who've been working in entertainment and production for a long time, and you keep your cool, but still, when you go do that interview on the inside, that 9-10-year-old fan or whatever it is freaking out a little bit? Tell me about a moment where you kind of had to check it a little bit on the inside.
Sure, I can speak to that. I just want to say that every interview we do, Carly and I call each other immediately after and start screaming into the phone. It's just, we're very excited to be doing this. We're lifelong fans. Like I said, this kind of started off as a love letter to the show, that we would be trusted with these stories, and to share that with the rest of the fandom means so much. But one of the moments that I will say really sticks out, we go downstairs and tell my husband, who was working in his office, I said, I need you to take the kids outside because David Duchovny's calling in just a few minutes. And he was just like, seriously? Yeah.
I appreciate that you were so polite to your husband. Yeah. Please take the kids outside, as opposed to get out. No, Duchovny is calling.
No.
How about yourself?
Lauren's going to laugh at mine. I think we had an opportunity to do an event with Chris Carter. We were outside with Chris, just Lauren and I. And I had the opportunity to tell Chris about what the show meant to me, and about how the relationship with my dad, and like how it's just something that grabs me. And I'm having this emotional moment, but what I don't realize is I'm trying to deflate a blow-up alien. And this thing was easily as tall as Lauren. And I'm like having this conversation with Chris, but I'm literally doubled over with this green alien trying to get the air out of it because it wouldn't come out. So finally, Lauren pulls the thing out of my arms and she's like, I'm going to take over this. So I can have the conversation. And having an emotional moment, bear in mind, like I'm like ready to cry and I'm trying to get the air out of the alien, which Lauren hasn't let me forget.
Yeah.
Since
Testament
that.
of our friendship, actually.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So we have conversations with Chris, and that's a weird transition for us that we've been able to create a relationship with these people that we have such respect for.
Because it's authenticity and that sincerity, and it's conveyed through the movie. I think that's actually really incredible. I mean, I would say for me, having interviewed like a Gillian Anderson or even Mitch Pileggi, like since I'm locked into that younger fandom mode with this show, sure, I've interviewed a lot of people, but when you're going up to talk to Gillian Anderson, you know she is an actor, a performer, but it's also like, holy crap, I'm going to talk to Scully, or Skinner's intimidating. I don't know, like even though you know the reality of it, that true love of it influences what you do, and I think that's really important. I think it's also really special about this film that you include not just interviews with everyone, every principal person connected to the show, the production, but the fans. And you mentioned the Scully effect. First off, define that for folks that may not know what it is.
A direct correlation between young women who grew up watching the X-Files and then go on to pursue medical,
FBI.
scientific, law enforcement careers as a result of watching Dana Scully. And the Scully effect is well documented, and it always brings a smile to our face when we meet a woman who says, I didn't really have a lot growing up, or I come from a working class background. I certainly didn't know any scientists or medical doctors. And then I saw Dana Scully, and now I'm doing ABC. And it's just so wonderful to hear them tell us about a little bit about their life, but also how this fictional character really shaped the adult that they became.
Well, how about yourself, Carly? Since you've mentioned the relationship with your father and being fans together, was there an interview that you had that kind of harkened back to your own personal story or something that felt very important?
Not an individual story. I think it was just everything put together. I mean, I think what we saw and one thing my father always instilled in me was passion. My parents said, you want to go for it, you pursue it, you work hard, and you can get it. And that was something that always stood out to me. And when we're doing these interviews, especially with the writers and producers, which were always the ones that fascinated me the most, it was about their passion for the projects and their passion, even though 30 years have gone by. Some of these directors and writers have gone on to do, like James Wong has done all the American Horror Stories. And you watch these creatives like, wow, you guys have done some crazy things, and you talk about their passion. And I think that's what resonated most with me. I'm not a non-camera person. I'm a behind the scenes person. And so for me, those are the stories that grab me. And the Scully, I think from my aspect, the Scully effect is more about her strength.
Are you officially done with the interviews, or have there been any proverbial white whales that you're pursuing that you would still like to get?
I would love to talk to Vince Gilligan.
Nearly 100 times we've done this, and we love it a little bit more each time. So, if you're watching and you worked on the X-Files,
bring it on.
Vince Gilligan, Bryan Cranston, give us a call. I know you're big fans of Den of Geek.
Jack Black.
Jack Black, yeah, that was really on heart, yeah.
The choice to really distribute the interviews as you go along across your social media, YouTube, as opposed to waiting until you say, okay, we are done and now here's the final product. Discuss that a little bit, because some people would be very reluctant to show the goods before the final product.
And we've always invited fellow fan participation. People were asking about it. People were like, oh, did my question get asked? And I said, well, there's no reason we can't share it. This is for the fans just like us.
You're in this unique position where, as you said, you were happy being behind the camera, the production person, but now this thing has evolved in a way that you're out there in the world interacting with the fan community in person. Speak about that and how exciting, cool it is, but also sometimes how weird it is, and some of the opportunities that have emerged from your work. Why don't you start on that, Carly?
I think you've hit the nail on both. Is we love being out and interacting with people. We have a blast. We love talking to people. We love having a good time. You know, we were like on our way to the airport. We were kind of running out of this event, and someone was like, can you sign our book? And we're, sure, why not? It is a surreal thing. I think the whole thing for us has been a surreal event. We're just having a blast doing it. We're having like Lauren said, we don't want this to end. We've created a project that people are watching around the world. Like, that blows my mind.
But you're also doing good work with it. You're raising money, you're fundraising for good causes as well.
So we started collecting funds for domestic violence victims in our state just from X-Files events. And one of the people that we've stayed close to from the X-Files is Sheila Larkin, who plays Mama Scully. And for File Fest in Minneapolis, she had given us a stack of crew gifts to assist with our efforts, for our fundraising efforts. And we were able to then go back to New Jersey with over $1,200 and be just like, here's our latest donation. It's just another piece that we would never have expected 6 years ago when we started this.
How can people keep up with your work, keep track of the film, and what is next for this entire production? You guys got a lot of stuff lined up.
We do. So we're really excited about our New York City screening with Chris Carter. We are on Instagram, and our website is thexfiles25.com. You can link to all of our socials there. You could drop us a line.
My guests are Carly Blake and Lauren Krediger, and we have been talking about the X-Files Fan Retrospective. You can check out their work on YouTube, on social media, and soon to check out the final finished product of the documentary.